Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Monday, February 18th, and I am Stephen McCarthy from the McCarthy Project, and we are back again this week to assist in the development of young athletes and give them the tools they need to succeed in life and sport. Today we are going to cover a really interesting subject to me, and that is team building and how to build a team that is built on discipline and built on the proper foundations that allow for not only success in the current year, but also in the kids' future and in the team's future. So I'm pretty excited to talk about the ability or the concepts of building a team culture. Today we have Eric Borer with us. He's a local high school lacrosse coach. He works with the Champlain Park athletes. He's been doing it for over 4 years. He also has played college lacrosse as well at St. Cloud State University. And last year's team ended up to be either ranked 6th or 8th, depending on what poll that you look into. So I'm pretty excited to have Eric on the phone today. How are you doing, Eric?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
You're very welcome. So today's subject is how do we build a positive team culture? And I think as we were talking a little bit off air here, it is probably one of the funnest parts of sports that I think that if coaches would really understand the power that they have over kids, I think they wouldn't do the things that they do. And I'll just kind of briefly go over some of the things that I've seen, because I want to take the lion's share of the time with Eric here today to talk about the positive things that we can do rather than the negative things. But I do think it's always nice to say, okay, what are the things that are happening that should be occurring in a team? And the things that I've just seen recently, in over the last 10 years of working with young athletes, we have sent kids off to high school programs. We have worked with high school programs. So I've got a very good finger on the pulse of what high school coaches do and what they do to create this atmosphere. I also have young kids. So I've seen the aspect when they come home and what the coaches, what power they have over the kids and how they treat them and what they do with them. I've seen everything from bullying. I've seen very old coaches feel that they can bully kids and treat them and put things on their name tags and really make them feel very inadequate and in an attempt to motivate. I've seen coaches that go off on the power trip and really feel that their gift is to coach and they're going to be listened to no matter what, and they just think more highly of themselves than they should. Secondly, and lastly, I think is the biggest problem, I think, is the team atmosphere of survival of the fittest. They're very dogmatic. They beat the crap out of the kids. They drive them into the ground and say, if you can't survive this training, then you're not going to be able to be on the team, or some sort of really, like I say, very dogmatic, very, very difficult way to go about building a team, because they're all basically, they're done. They're done. They've pulled the trigger. They're out. They may be there physically, but they're not there mentally. So that's kind of the things I think I would like to semi-address as we go through this. I want to kind of move over with Eric to the positive side and say, okay, we have a team now. We're starting from scratch, which Eric, in the last 4 years at Champlain Park, has basically taken a team that was on a 500 level and had brought them to, like I say, the top in the state of Minnesota. So I really want to kind of turn this over to Eric from here on out. I'm going to just kind of start off with a question, Eric. What are some of the basic concepts that you use to develop the team culture for your guys?
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this. This is something that we work very hard on at Champlain Park, and you kind of hit the nail right on the head that a lot of coaches don't understand kind of the power that they wield with the youth and the kids that we coach, and a lot of coaches sometimes forget about that. It's really about the development of the athletes and the development of the individual person, rather than trying to win games, trying to score goals and stuff like that, or focusing on the coach's agenda. But get back on point. And some of the things that we really try to emphasize to kind of build our atmosphere, build our team in a positive manner is we focus a lot on unity. That's one of the biggest things that we focus on. Just having all of our kids really pull for each other and, support each other, trust in each other.
And I think it's interesting because I think I'd like to have you develop out as we go along each point is that how do you actually do that? Because in this day and age of social media and very limited conversations outside of practice and outside of games, what types of things do you specifically do to develop unity?
Well, that's something that last year was our first year where we did this. We took an entire Saturday where we took all of our kids in the high school program from 8th and 9th graders all the way up to 12th graders. And we basically went on a retreat with all of our 6 coaches, 60 kids. And we went out to Edenwood Center in Eden Prairie and focused on, small group exercises, large group exercises. They had a chance to do strategy and problem solving together, ropes courses, things like that. Things that they were put in situations where they were kind of outside the whole lacrosse environment and really had to use each other and themselves to kind of pull together as a group and individually kind of be challenged in a different environment to kind of grow those bonds with each other.
Did you see the captains come to the forefront? Did they rise to the top? It
really depends on the kind of leader that the captains are. Usually by that point, we don't really have captains. We have guys in mind. We like to do our choosing of captains kind of after that, just so we know kind of the mentality of the team, the mentality of the guys, and then that event provides a good kind of output for. We can see the guys that do rise to the top, and one of the great things that we see when we do that event is you see some guys that really pull for or show through that you don't expect.
Yes.
They provide some leadership, and they show up. They say, "Wow, this we didn't see that from this guy," and that's where you start developing 15 leaders rather than the 3 captains, and that's what really provides a good team atmosphere.
That's true. I never think of that. When you have the depth, then they're more than just one guy ripping on one other guy for not doing something. You can be more self-managed. It might be the best way to put it.
Definitely. And I think last year we didn't have a captain until it might have been midway through the season. We really, up until that point, we really emphasized that at any point, any practice, any game, it was up to anyone on the team to really be a leader, from a freshman all the way to a senior. So it was everybody's job to lead the team, and that was, I think, a big part of the success that we've had so far.
And that's interesting because I think that leads a lot to the question of, is there such a thing as everybody is a winner? And I think a lot of the captain selection nowadays is whoever puts their name in gets to be captain. And really they are not qualified to be that. But if you do take the approach that you just took, it allows them to basically come to the forefront on their own, and the kids make the selection rather than saying, we made this selection. This is the person that's going to be. And it may be the guy that makes everybody mad. And I've seen that before, too, where the captain becomes the guy that's just obnoxious and makes everybody mad, rather than actually being a leader and leading the team.
Yeah, I think there can be a lot of mistakes made when choosing captains. And, I'm through my coaching experience, I'm probably guilty of all of them as well. But, a lot of the times it turns out to be, a popularity contest where the team is voting on who they think, and then the coaches kind of do some input. But I think it needs to be a little bit more than that. I think you have to take a lot of things into consideration, and you have to really drill down to what's important for your team and what you're trying to accomplish. And, maybe the most popular guy, the guy that scores 50 goals or whatever it is, he might not be your guy, even though everybody wants him to be. You gotta find the ones that are really gonna kind of be the advocate for the entire team and really show leadership that way.
Absolutely, because even if you think back to, we all know about the miracle in 1980, and Mike Eruzione would be the captain, but he wasn't the best player by far. He had the skills to lead the team, but maybe not the skills to put the puck in the net or score a goal, whatever the situation might be.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool. All right, but I took you a little bit down the wrong path, a little bit, got into leadership. I suppose eventually that does come into pass in a team culture, but what other types of things do you think are important?
Well, I think with building that unity and having everybody kind of trust each other and building that relationship with each player, the players really start to hold themselves and each other accountable for their actions on and off the field, things like that. So if you can develop that, that team unity, and guys are starting to be accountable for everything they're doing, and they're accountable to their teammates, a lot of the other issues kind of take care of themselves because they start thinking, if they're thinking about doing something, they're going to start thinking, what are my teammates going to think? How is this going to affect, my team, my teammates, my coaches, and stuff like that? And if they feel like they're a big part of the team, and they belong in that atmosphere, they're going to start thinking a lot more about how it's going to affect the team, how it's going to affect themselves in a positive or negative manner, and hopefully they choose the positive, which is usually the case if you develop those attributes, I guess.
The stronger ties to the team. Now, what types of things, how do you name your team? Do you name it as, okay, we're going to be a team, or do you allow that with these different events and different what's the word I'm looking for? Basic group activities, that's what I would put it that way. Is that, do you look to guide the team, or are you allowing them to go on their own?
I guess in just the team aspect, it's a little bit of both. Coaches always overanalyze at every aspect of everything. It's kind of it's our job description basically. So as much as we want to micromanage and we want to try to direct things how we want them to go, you really have to kind of hold back a little bit, and the team has to develop how it's going to develop. Each kid is an individual. You're never going to have 20 or however big your team is. You're never going to have all the same guys, so you're never going to have the same thing twice, no matter how long you're coaching. So I think every kid brings something different to the table. Every kid has their own individuality, and they bring that to the table, so it's going to impact the team in some way. With us doing our team building and stuff like that, we went into it last year, being our first year doing that. We, as coaches, had kind of an idea of what we wanted to happen, what we thought would happen, and what we wanted to get out of it. And a lot of those things were kind of thrown out the window, and we just kind of let things take place. And I think the team and the program are better for it.
Because you look at it, these are things that you're building for years in advance. When you start to build a culture of unity and being involved with something that people are proud of, it's not just for this year. It's the kids that come back, this year, maybe the seniors that come back, that graduated last year, come back and say, this is what Champlain Park lacrosse is about. This is what life is about. We're part of a group. expectations, that you handle yourself a certain way. Can you start to see those things too, or how do you feel that this year is going to come together?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We've, in the last 4 years, we've been working really hard at kind of not necessarily defining who we are, but just really having that consistent culture of, like you said, this is what Champlain Park Lacrosse is all about. This is how we do things, and I think it's kind of coming to the forefront now that as I was 4 years ago was my first year, so now those freshmen are now seniors. So it's really kind of our whole ideas are kind of ingrained in what they're doing, and it's really coming to the forefront. I guess just an example of that is the whole unity thing that we stress a lot. One of our sophomores lost his mom, I think, 2 weeks ago, which is terribly sad. But one of our senior leaders contacted me without any, parents involved or anything, and he wanted to take a practice jersey and get out the whole team to sign it and get it to, our player that lost his mom, and that was, that can be a tough thing to do for a high school kid where, you got to tell a lot of these guys to tie their shoes and eat breakfast. So for somebody to do something like that for a teammate without coaches getting involved or parents and stuff like that, those are the moments that you're proud of as a coach. You're doing at least something right for that to happen. And
and I think that's what they do for society as a whole. Nobody takes the time to think about other people. I mean, your neighbor could go through the most difficult times in their life, and you won't even know who they are or what even their name is. And to have young men stand up and say, somebody's going through a tough time, and we're going to support that person, fantastic. I mean, those are the things, I could just see it. I get almost goosebumps just thinking about that. That's what team is about. That's what we do these things for. You know what I mean? Whether you score 14 million goals or not, it's that you understand how to do life, not just sport. Fantastic. And then just coming back to a couple other things, I think another one that I'd like to come is like how you hold each person accountable, and what happens, because there's always this idea of discipline, and I think these power tripper bully guys or coaches, we'll call them, I should use the proper term, but they always seem to think that that's what they're trying to instill is discipline, into people. How do you view discipline, holding, your players accountable, and not being in that bullying, power tripping position?
I think it's a mixture of, like I said before, the players really have to hold themselves accountable. High school kids and youth, they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna do things where discipline is going to be needed. But if the kids really get involved and they hold each other accountable, they're going to think a lot more of what is my teammate going to think rather than what's my teacher going to think, what's my mom going to think, what's my coach going to think. So I think that's a really big aspect of it. As a coaching staff for us, another thing is we set expectations very early in the season, and the kids know those expectations.